Hey everyone, I'm Joe. Today I'm going to be talking about the best and worst places to live within science fiction and fantasy worlds. Now this is one of the Babbles for the Booktube SFF Awards. The Booktube SFF Award is a Booktube run award which started a few years ago, and now we are in the 4th year of it now, I believe. The Babbles is a series of video prompts essentially to make videos about, and it's essentially to get you to talk about some different books than what is often seen on each person's individual channel. And indeed that is what I greatly like about this. Now I'm not doing all of the prompts, as you may have noticed, because some of them I just can't think of any answers for because it might not be in my area. Some of them I am, and indeed this is one that I think is quite interesting because thinking about worlds that are good and bad is a more personal thing, although there can be some sort of stereotypes in there, and hence why I'm talking about 3 places that are bad to live in, 1 that is neutral, and another 3 that are really good, and I'll talk about them in that order. The first worst place I'm going to talk about is Westeros from A Game of Thrones, as it is known popularly because of this TV series, otherwise known as A Song of Ice and Fire, written by George R.R. Martin. I believe at this moment there are 2 episodes of this left on TV, and that's it. And from what I can tell, they're not doing very well with the ending. They've sort of made it very dubious and very basically terrible. But I don't know, I don't actually watch it myself. I did, however, read all of the current 5 books in this series, books 1 to 5, just before I started this Booktube channel in 2013. And I will not be reading the 6th and 7th books if and when they are released at some point in the very far future, because I did not like these books. These books were dark, miserable and depressing, frankly. I don't like reading a large amounts of dark, depressing books. That's not me. I am an optimist by nature, and indeed this applies to all the other books. My optimistic nature makes it very difficult for me to sometimes read really dark, gloomy books, because I just don't agree with the way authors sometimes create these what I perceive as pessimistic books. And indeed, Westeros is a pessimistic environment. Everybody in the world seemingly wants to just get power and resources, and they do not care in the slightest what they need to do to get it. They will murder, cheat, steal, torture children, rape, pillage, every conceivable unpleasant thing humanity can ever inflict on each other. Everybody in this world seems perfectly happy to do, and indeed does do it on a regular basis, purely because they seem obsessed with power, which I don't like, and I really had issues with, because there really aren't any redeeming characters in these books at all. None of the characters are particularly nice. I mean, there's a few that are moderate, but on the whole, not really. And I didn't enjoy these books in the slightest. Next up, I'm going to choose the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. I read this only last year, and I didn't enjoy this trilogy at all. I only read it because it is a Hugo award-winning trilogy. And this, again, is very much for the same reasons why I chose Westeros, because this is a very dark and gloomy world. And there's one thing about this world that I did not like, and that is essentially this world is wrapped by a series of essentially very large and very powerful earthquakes, hence the title of the first book of the 5th season being like essentially earthquake season. And a certain type of person in this world is able to control the earth itself, and everybody is aware of who these people are. As a result, the entire general population of the world is quite happy and indeed quite eager for these people to be essentially controlled and used for the purposes of stopping earthquakes. And they don't seem to care about the fact that these are still people just because they happen to have an ability that seems to be irrelevant. The general population of a planet that is willingly and knowingly cheerful about the fact that they are imprisoning and torturing a group of people just for their own personal benefit, just because they have got technology in this world as well. They could use technology to try to alleviate their problems, and they don't seem that bothered. They seem more inclined towards, no, let's not use the technology that we have access to. Let's instead torture people and make them solve our problems for us. Yeah, I don't like that, actually. And I find these books horribly dark because of it, and I really had issues reading them, frankly. The third choice for worst place to live is going to be one that I know some people might not be very happy to see in this list, and that is the Realm of the Elderlings universe by Robin Hobb. Now this is obviously a very big and very well known world, and obviously the author is as well. I have read only the first trilogy of this, the Farseer trilogy. I will never be reading another Robin Hobb book because I find her far too depressive and extremely grim and gloomy. These books are the absolute opposite of my personality. Now, with books, I never expect some sort of, Disney type ending where everybody lives happily ever after. I know that doesn't really happen that often, but in these books, every single character merely doesn't end okay. They end horribly mentally or physically or both scarred up. They will probably have nightmares and horrible psychological problems for the rest of their lives. And this applies to basically every single character in the book, because nothing turns out right for anybody, ever. Everything that could go wrong does go wrong. Anything that could go well generally doesn't. And I don't like this outlook. To me, this is very pessimistic and very gloomy, and I just can't take more of it. I mean, that's why I'm not reading any more books in this world, because it's really the opposite of what I am as a person. Looking for the best in people and situations. This book looks at the worst. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Next up, it's time for me to talk about the neutral book, and this might be an interesting choice because I'm going to choose Neuromancer by William Gibson, and specifically the Sprawl, which is the universe that he has created in this book, and indeed the two sequels to this as well, which I've also read. Now, the Sprawl is a interesting universe because it is essentially our society now, just slightly in the future, where our technology level has risen accordingly at a fairly high and fast rate. We have lots of advantages of this technology. We also have lots of disadvantages of this technology and the same problems that we do now, which is why I think this is a fairly neutral book in terms of it being either good or bad, because yes, there are some really good advantages of this world. Some of the technology that has been invented can solve our everyday problems, but there's also some pretty horrible problems. I mean, there is still big companies, or a series of them, that own certain areas of technology, and they are in it to make profit at all costs, regardless of what people actually like or what is good for people. And that is still quite hard to take sometimes, because people are suffering in fairly unpleasant ways because they cannot get hold of technology, because they just can't access it because the companies own it. And yeah, that's the dark aspect, but the light aspects are there. It's a very mixed world. It's a grey world, I think of it in terms of, which is why it's neutral. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just another form of our world, like in the future, which makes it interesting, and indeed why I chose it. The first good world to live in is actually going to be one that might surprise a few people, and because you might not necessarily consider it, it's also one of the oldest on this list, and that is Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. Now this was published in the early 70s, in 1973 I believe, and this is a curious world because the whole point of the book is that this big mysterious oblong object starts floating into the solar system. Nobody knows what it is. They go out to investigate it, and it's purely about human curiosity and human nature. There is no sort of aggression in this book. It's about the curiosity and about human integrity and intelligence, which I greatly like. It's a very positive, very optimistic book, obviously why I've chose it. And the society in this book, which isn't discussed in detail, is however very much and very distinctly what I think of as a very positive society. We have, for the most part, tried to improve our society using technology and indeed using culture and people themselves to sort of essentially stop all the wars for the most part, and actually get on with trying to improve the planet rather than murdering each other, which is a hobby that humanity has at the moment. We kind of like murder and mayhem. This world has managed to, for the most part, sort of dampen down those feelings and arise to be something greater than what we are now. I like this. It's optimistic and cheerful, and I've read this book quite a few times, if nothing else, just because it's optimistic and nice. The second choice for a good science fiction and fantasy world is the world that is created by K.B. Wages in the Indranan War Trilogy, which starts with Behind the Throne. Now, this is an interesting world because it is, in a way, very much like ours, but it is, some people might think of it, a gender-flipped version. Whereas our world now is generally, for the most part, a patriarchy. Men lead most of the governments and most of the significant positions of power in the world, and indeed their egos then rule them in that place, which is why we got so many problems. In this world, this is run by women, and indeed is a matriarchy, and for the most part, women in this book are not ruled by their ego, they are ruled by their intelligence, which frankly is a much better method than what we have in the world at the moment. As a result, this society seems to be a very nice society, as such, whatever nice can be. People actually seem to enjoy living there. There are not the major problems in the world that we have now. Yes, there are of course problems. I mean, there are other societies on other planets which are not doing things the same way as this society, so there's issue there. But on the whole, this is a more positive society, one that is, some people might say, oh yes, it's just flipping our society around and that's it. It's not, it's actually more than that. It's taking out the ego equation and replacing it with intelligence instead of ego, which works much better, and I think that's the way that we need to somehow improve things in our world. Where we will manage it, no matter, but hopefully we will. And finally, the last book that I'm going to talk about for good places to live is actually the most obvious choice for me, really, and indeed is actually one of my favourite books ever, and that is The Dreaming Void by Peter F. Hamilton. This is book 1 in the Void trilogy. This is my favourite space opera book that I've ever read. It is also one of my favourite science fiction books ever as well. I love this book and indeed the trilogy. This book is just really fun, really positive, and just really optimistic, because this is several hundred years in the future, about 400 years from now, without having to check. It's a very positive world because we have massively advanced our technology to really high levels, beyond anything that we can even conceive of now, even vaguely think of. And we are using that for the most part, positive reasons. There are multiple worlds colonised all over the galaxy. You can live where you want, and you can live in a way that you want on a personal level. It's not governed by the local government in that way. You're not constrained to live in this way just because the government says you have to. And if there is one like that, you move to another world. There's enough of them, and it creates very much freedom of movement, freedom of expression, and just freedom to just be who you want to be without feeling as though you're constrained to fit into a mould. You can be whatever, and nobody really minds. And indeed, in most cases, will quite happily embrace you for that, within that particular subculture on that world. And I just love these books because they're cheerful and they're optimistic about the future. If we can get things right, things will work out for us on a whole. And indeed, that is what I like about speculative fiction, and indeed quite a few space operas can do this as well, which is why this is so good for, because it thinks about what can happen, what has happened, and often, at least the books I really enjoy, tries to think about the best of the situation and the best of worlds. And I like this. that is what I want to see. I want to see optimism. I want to see improvements of the world and of society as a whole. And I just hope that we as a species manage to actually stop murdering each other and ourselves and actually, you know, do better. We'll see in time. So, with that said, that's actually it for all of the books I'm going to talk about, and indeed for this video. If you have any interesting suggestions for books that might be really good worlds or really bad worlds, or indeed a neutral world, then please let me know, because I'm sure that I've probably read books that have really interesting worlds for one of these that I've probably completely forgotten about at the time, and it'd be interesting to rediscover them or indeed discover new ones. So again, if you have any suggestions on books you think I might like based on any of these, then please leave a comment, because I'm always eager to read new books and indeed new authors. With that said, that is it for this video. All my social media links, as well as links to the Booktube SFF related stuff, will be found in the description box below. With that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.